Hi Anush.
Hey, hi, guys. Yeah.
I have sent one poster to you.
Okay.
Can you share your screen and keep that poster?
Just let me check. Just give me a minute. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I have shared my screen. Is that visible? Hello, everyone. Very good evening. Welcome to the AZ900 Fundamentals Cloud Festival. So, the name, as it mentions, is the Cloud Festival. So, probably most of you have heard about in cloud. So, it's a wonderful thing to know that. So, based upon the Salesforce research, cloud computing allows mobile access and corporate data via the smartphone and devices, which considered as like an over 2.6 billion smartphones are being used globally today. So it's a great way to ensure that no one is left out in the loop, and we are all making use of the cloud and the cloud features over there. So it's great to know, and even it's very pleasure to discuss with you all about the cloud, especially the Microsoft cloud concepts. And today we are going to understand much more about the cloud concept related to the cloud computing and different kinds of clouds and all. So welcome to all once again. So as I was mentioning about cloud computing, so probably most of you have heard about and what is like cloud computing. There could be a multiple reasons that you are using the cloud. So you may have used the cloud to store your applications or your images or the videos and different form of content that probably you may have used the cloud to place it over. So let's try to understand what actually the thing is the cloud computing and why it will be used and what are all the features over there. So then we'll jump on to the Microsoft Azure AZ900 fundamentals concept. So in the AZ900, so we'll try to understand what are the complete the architecture of the Azure for the cloud, it will, and what are the different kind of services are provided over the cloud, and we'll try to understand even much more about that. So cloud computing. So as the name it mentions, it's very it's easy to understand. First thing is like an computing. So something is like process is going on. So something like an delivery of services are going on, including like it could be like an server, storages, databases, networking or software analytics, intelligence, much more. So whatever it is, once we listen the word cloud and the computing, the cloud means the over the internet. So whatever the things which happens over the internet, which will be considered as the cloud. So it will why we will rely on that one. So we mainly rely on the internet. We think like the cloud thing, whatever it happens, is like going to be a faster innovation, flexible resources available, and even economies of the scale is much more available. So typically, trying to understand the cloud is the best way to go with and the database, or as you go with servers, or you go with and store the images data, or as even the networking software analytics and all. So that's what the definition tells: the practice of using network and remote servers hosted on the internet, or as you want to store the images or you want to manage the data what has been stored in the cloud, so that is over the internet, and processing that data, and rather than the local server or as like in personal computer. So now we'll try to understand what is cloud. So we are trying to understand what is the computing things. So meanwhile, let's bring the connectivity in between the computing and the cloud. So the cloud means what we think of. There is a word we can see here in this definition. There is a personal computer. So the cloud means over the internet, it's someone's computer. So it could be a very good infrastructure. So over the internet, so in the infrastructure, for example, we may access the Google Cloud, or else we may access the AWS Cloud, or else we may access the Azure Cloud. So whatever the cloud it is, so the cloud means it's over the internet, the infrastructure which will be offered by someone. So what we do is we will access that infrastructure, we will access that system, or as the storage which has been hosted in the over the internet, and we will make use of it. So either to store our data, or as to host our application, so or as to perform the analytics of the data which has been stored. So the different things which will be taken care, or as the done. So in the someone's computer remotely will be called as like in cloud. So the computing, the actions which will be the resources, lot of different resources are available. So we may have think of when we think of like an Azure. So Generally, we have make use of an Microsoft Azure for the Outlook or as the Teams application, or else it could be an Word document, PowerPoint. So these are the basics over there. But when you think of an Azure, so actually the Azure is offering like in thousands of different kind of resources. So with an optimizations that we can get it to perform end-to-end application, or as to take care of an data analytics, front-end insights, or as even the edge side. So we can perform a lot of things over there. So coming back, so we understood it's like a cloud is like completely on someone's computer over the internet. So in the same way, it is we used to store or manage and process the data in the another system. That's like instead of a local server or a personal computer itself, the cloud computing. So it's completely an internet based that provides or to computer process resources and as well as to data to computers and other devices on demand. So it is like an on-demand you will access this. For example, you may probably using a Google Cloud, which will be like in Google Photos or as like in Google Drive, or else it could be in Google Documents. Everything that you will access over the cloud, it's completely on demand. So on demand that you access the resources, and if you want to access much more, pay as you go. So for example, if it's like in Google Storage, so the Google Documents that you'll place in the Google Drive, you have a limited storage. It's not like an unlimited. So as you keep on storing the data, so that you need to keep on paying for that. It's like an as you go, you pay for the service. So the same way over the cloud computing, you access the amount of infrastructure which will be offered, and you store your data and perform the analytics, and then bring out the insights based upon the analytics, and then you will get the completely end-to-end infrastructure, so which is the cloud computing offers. So there are different types of cloud computing are there. So the majorly the three ones are private cloud, public cloud, and the hybrid cloud. So the thing is like the difference is between the private or as like in public or in the hybrid cloud is based upon the location and the ownership. So when you look at the public cloud, first we'll understand the public cloud and then we'll go to the private one. So if you look at the public cloud, so public clouds are like an environmental typically created from the IT infrastructure, not owned by the end user. So whatever that you host, for example, like in large public cloud providers, including Alibaba or as like an AWS or as Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, Microsoft Azure that we are going to study. So all these different cloud platforms is completely the IT infrastructure not owned by the end users. So traditional public clouds always ran off premises, but today the public cloud providers have like started offering cloud services on clients on like in premise data centers. So this made the location, the ownership like a distinction obsolete. So owned by cloud service providers and offers highest level of an efficiency. So there will be no privacy over the data. Everyone can access over there, and the fee structure are not necessary and characteristics of the public cloud anymore. Since some cloud providers like an few of them are there, so they allow the tenants to use their cloud for completely for free. So it's like it's not there will be no, you can't expect any data as to be in private. So if you look into the private clouds are completely loosely defined as cloud environments dedicated to a single end or as to the specific user. So you can see over the private cloud, so you can access part of the storage, part of the database, or as you part of the system access. And then whatever the data that you place over the cloud, it will be only limited access to you. It's not in public. So it's not like everyone can access whatever the data in the AWS or the Azure cloud or the Google cloud. So it is only limited to a specific end user or as the end customer. So when the underlying IT infrastructure is dedicated to a single customer and completely isolated access, which is called as like a private cloud. So looking into the hybrid one. So hybrid cloud is a seamlessly like a single IT environment created from multiple environments, that is like a local area network, wide area networks, and private networks. So and the lot of an API application verifiable interfaces will, and all will come up. So it's a combination. So mainly let's to understand the characteristics of the hybrid clouds. It's like in complex and requirements can differ depending upon who they are accessing it. For example, at least one private cloud and at least one public cloud, or two or more private clouds, two or more public clouds. It can differ. So these are like a different hybrid cloud may need to include. So hybrid cloud is completely a combination of in both the private and the public infrastructure, and it will be completely, the complexity will be much more compared to the public cloud and the private cloud. Yeah, the most interesting part in these three things, as we have seen, the scalability and the reliability, expensive. So because whenever we make use of the cloud platform, so even we look into the lot of things in addition, why we need the cloud computing. So there could be a lot of things will come up. It is like can work from anywhere, because as I mentioned, you don't need to completely depend upon your system. So it will be someone system over the internet, which is the cloud, and lower the cost. You don't need to spend much more on your infrastructure and all. It will become completely on the someone's infrastructure, and it will be easily scalable by provisioning resources on the fly. So and improved collaboration, increase the security, minimal IT infrastructure, and always the whatever the resource that you will access, it will be up to date. And even backup and the disaster recovery, you don't need to worry about all those things. So completely in the cloud, the backup will be taken care. So you don't worry that data that you could have lose if something has happened for your local system. So it's in a cloud, and even in the cloud, you can place it over in a different regions as well. And predictable and budgetable pricing and document access and the control. These are the different benefits out there. So a lot of benefits will bring in the customers to look at the cloud part and the cloud computing part. So looking into the type in the differences in between the types of the cloud computing, in the public, you can see the scalable part, reliability, and the inexpensive and the location independent. So it's completely you can access from anywhere. But in the private, you can see the security, scalability, flexible, and greater control. So the more observation you can have here, the greater control. So you have a complete control over the data which is being stored in the cloud. So it's that's why we mentioned it's a completely a private cloud. It's completely your private access. It's completely an end user access. So whoever will have an access, only that person can access it. So it will be completely a private cloud. So hybrid is a scalable, secure, flexible, and cost effective, which will be works as a combination. So it's a complex infrastructure. So combination of both the public and the private cloud. Yeah, as we are discussing about the benefits of the cloud computing, so we can see a lot of benefits over there. So one is the cost saving. So you may think of what will be the cost saving. So you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. For example, if you are running a business, so first day of the business could be like, and very few of the customers are there. You don't want to have a huge infrastructure like a petabyte or terabyte of data to store, and multiple application servers that you don't need to run. So in the initial, it could be like an very few GB of an storage is more good enough. But as the days goes on and as the business grows, you could have expecting, or as you could have looked into a huge data storage, multiple servers to be run. So that infrastructure, for that infrastructure, again, you need to invest over there, and the maintenance. So as a capital expenditure, so as a capex part, you will invest, and then the maintenance will also be very expensive if it is a local infrastructure or as the local servers that you are going to maintain. So you need for example, if it is a local infrastructure, you could need a security person. You need to take care of the security. You need an internet, the completely 24/7. You need the power 24/7, and also you need an maintenance with respect to all the softwares has to be in up to date at the latest version and all. So different things that you need to take care, and you need to spend much more on those. But in the cloud part, you don't need to worry about the infrastructure, and you don't need to worry about especially it's like an pay as you go. If you're using only 1 GB of a storage, just pay for that. Or else if you are making use of like a petabyte, so just pay for it's like in 250 petabytes, for example, just pay for that. So the very next day, if you don't want that, if you're reducing the usage, and go ahead and pay for only for the usage. So it's completely kind of renting the cloud. So you are going to rent someone's infrastructure, so as a service. So that's what we will see in the next slide, different kind of a service which are available. And even you don't need to worry about the efficiency, and you no need to worry about the accessibility. You can access from anywhere, and the opportunities will be much more if it is in the case of, for example, if you built a database, if you are storing the data of your customers, so from your web application, or as it could be a website, so you need an analytics. So very complicated analytics algorithm that you need to run. So you don't need to worry about that, all the algorithms and everything, like, and resources are available. You can just make use of those resources which is on the cloud, and you can run those analytics. It could be a real-time analytics, or it could be a yearly ones, or it's like a monthly ones. You can just whatever the as per the requirement, you can execute the analytics and you can bring out the insights. So the insights is also, again, it's like in the Azure, for example, Power BI, which can offer like a very luxury insights, the visualization. So you don't need to worry about what kind of an front end design that you need to make, or as what kind of an tools that you need to use and all. So as per the requirement, so you can make use of your own design, customized design for the customers, or as for your business. And it has a lot of flexibility and the innovation. So emerging technology, and with respect to the security, completely end-to-end security will be taken care for the cloud computing. Yes, coming back, it's like I was mentioning about services. So the majorly the three different services that we will look into it. Even we are going to discuss a lot about these services model in the Azure as well. So first thing is like software as a service, and the very first thing is like you are going that way. So it's like an infrastructure as a service. Once you have an infrastructure, so then you can go ahead and bring up a platform. So the platform as a service, and once you have an infrastructure and the platform, you can have like a software as a service. So looking into that, so infrastructure as a service, it's like an abbreviated as an so it's contained like and contains the basic building blocks. So for like in cloud IT, and typically it will provide access to the networking for infrastructure, or as virtual computers and data storage space. So infrastructure as a service provide you with like an highest level of flexibility and the management control over your IT resources. And also it's most similar to an existing IT resources in many IT departments, and developers will familiar over there. So it's completely an infrastructure. You can need you probably need some kind of an infrastructure with a system. A very simple one is like you need a system, basic infrastructure with a few expected RAM. So it could be like an 24 GB of RAM. So and this much of a storage space. So this is completely an infrastructure. So you can get that infrastructure within multiple ways. That could be you can go ahead and you can create a virtual machine, or you can go ahead and you can create a containers. So different ways you can like an Windows desktop, the remote desktop. So different kind of an infrastructure as a service you can create. So once you have an infrastructure, so you need a platform to write your code, to deploy your code, and then to so once after the execute your code and then deploy it. So the platform as a service, so it removes the need of your organization to manage the like an infrastructure, usually the hardware part and the operating system. And also it allows you to focus on the deployment and the management of your applications. So this helps you by more efficient, as you don't need to worry about a resource like a resource procurement, or as it could be an capacity planning, software maintenance. Even lot of software, the completely day-to-day. So or as you can see, latest updates will be keep on releasing, or as for the operating system, the patches will be keep on releasing. So you need to take care of those updates, and you need to make sure that the patches that you're making is it the right one, or else you need to stay back with the old patch, or else do you need to upgrade your program, or else you need to change some modifications do you need to make. So all that you need to take care. But this platform as a service will completely support you, and you don't need to worry about all those, the resource procurement. Some of the licensed resources are required, so you don't need to worry about that. and the capacity planning, software maintenance, or as it could be patching, software patch, and any of the other undifferentiated heavily lifting like an involved running, which is required to run your application. So that platform is completely available as a platform as service over the cloud. So you just make use of the resources and pay for those resources. And the third is like an software as a service, SaaS. So this provides you with the complete product. So that is run and managed by the service provider. In most cases, it is like and people prefer as a software as a service to the end user application. So probably you may have like 10 applications and you need to host those applications and as a server. So and you need to completely host it and you need to maintain that server as well. So that support is available over the cloud. You can host your applications and you can access you can make sure that your application is running all the time. If it goes down, immediately you'll get a notification and the alerts as well. So the very common example of SaaS application is like an web-based email. So we won't you download the application for the email, right? You can just go to your browser, and that's just a web-based browser, and then you can just give the IP address and access the application completely. And you can send an email, or else you can read your email, and you can perform in multiple actions the same way. So SaaS will support you, will provide you the especially to run and manage your services, the application. So whatever the applications that you will build and so on the platform as a service, and then you'll deploy it and you'll run as a service on the software. So it will be completely taken care on the cloud. Why do we need this cloud computing? So if you are maintaining the on premises, for example, in your office itself, if you invest a lot as a part of capex, capital expenditure, so and if you bring in the system, and if you maintaining a lot of database storage servers and all, so the first is the investment is bad, and the second thing is you need to make sure that every time the server or else any glitch won't happen. If any glitch happens, what could happen? So your server could have went down. So server goes down means your customer can't access your server or any of your services. So in such cases, you have to make sure that all the time it's running, and some tools are required to handle that all as well. So the cloud computing is especially will help you out there. So 24/7 support. If anything goes down, there will be a monitoring tool or the service health tool. So different tools that you are available. So we are going to discuss much more on the AZ900 about those tools, as well as pay as you go. How much that you access, only you pay for that, and you will get a as a calculator, you can estimate for 1 month how much could be. This is the, for example, if you're going to build an application, you're going to host a server and you're going to make use of a database. So you can estimate easily what is the amount that I'm going to charge, for example, by end of the day. So how much the resources that I'm using for those resources, how much it will be charged and how much I need to pay. So you can have a proper budget planning. So, and it is completely easily elastable, and also scalability is very good as you scale. So you just start to access much more resources, and it's a secure storage management. End-to-end security will be available. You no need to worry about the security, and the device location is independent. You no need to worry about okay, my device is sitting here, or else I need to go if I need to access the device, or else if I need to customize my code, I need to go to my office. It's not like completely like an on-premises one. It's completely over the cloud. You can access from anywhere. So these are multiple benefits over the cloud computing. So much more as like on daily basis that we will use cloud computing. So is like an social networking, so applications and even the email or as document, spreadsheet, or other hosting services, backup services, or banking and financial services, or as healthcare and government applications, government, sometimes often government platforms. So these are the different examples that we will use, many more that we use on daily basis to access or as to perform or action on the based upon the cloud computing. Cool. I hope I am able to give some idea about the cloud computing, what's is and cloud and what is in computing, what is the benefits of the computing. So let's try to now have a I want you all to go through the one of the steps for your registration and to procure your certification and all. So I will just go through these steps for the slide, and the same slide, the presentation is available over the description. Even you can download it as well. The very first thing is you need to go to cloud ready skills. So cloud in the cloud ready skills, so you are navigate to the page that is like and start the process of claiming your discounted voucher for this examination. So for the very first step, you need to go to the cloud ready skills website. Once you open the cloud ready skills, you can do the things on parallel as well, or else you can do it in the offline as well after this session. So even you can access this document. Again, I'm just repeating, you can access this document from the description link. There is a link on the description or as in the chat. So the document will be shared, so you can access the document. So once after accessing that website, so you can sign in using your Microsoft account to such as like an at the Outlook or as the hotmail.com. So different ones. So you can whatever the Microsoft account that you have. So you need to sign into that one. The thing is, if you don't have a Microsoft account, please you have to go ahead and you have to sign up. So create yourself a new account. So during the creation of an account, it could have access ask you to allow some permissions as well for your email account information and all. For that, you need to give the permission. And you can see a screen over here. This is the one where once the application permissions are allowed, you need to enter some of the details. The details could be, it could be like a school or as like an university or the college name, and then the country. So from which country, so and your specific university or college name. So just you need to provide those details and submit. As a 8th step, you need to verify your student status. So once you are able to sign in and once you are able to provide your college details, so please provide your student, click on the verify your student status. So this is for the discounted coupon that you have to get it to access your examination. There are like in different ways to validate your student status. So you need like an either you can go if you have an email address. So from this college, at the rate, for example, the college name, it could be like an XYZ Institute of Technology, or else it could be any. So if you have an email address from your college, so you can go ahead and you can take that email address and you use that to validate yourself as a student, or else there could be an account, or else it could be an ID card. So based upon the multiple things, you can go ahead and you can choose. There are different ways to validate your student status. Select any one of the method and continue validating your student status and follow the steps. Once after that, it will show you as congratulations, your academic status has been successfully verified. So those are the 10 steps to verify that you are a student. Once after that, so you can see on these snapshots which has been placed here. So once you are make sure that your account status, like as a student, you're confirmed, so you're approved. So for few of them, immediately it will get approved and you'll get an email as well. For some, it could take some few minutes. So once it's approved, you can continue from this step number 11. So you can click on review your student status. So by clicking on that, so once your status is verified, you'll be able to see the message, your status is verified. So for a few of them, it could take like an hours of time. But for few of them, it could get done very immediately. So once your status as a student has been verified, So then you can proceed to select any of the available Microsoft fundamentals. So that is the journey that you're going to have. So Microsoft fundamentals AZ900. So AZ900 is the one that we are going to discuss for the rest, like in rest of the day, as well as on tomorrow and the next few days. So we are going to understand completely about the AZ900 Azure fundamentals. So you can choose the start journey. So you're present like an you will get an option like once you start the journey, you'll get an option as like an learn, prepare, and then certify. So the three things have come up. So at any time you can self attest that you completed the learning stage and click on toggle button to mark your learning as completed. So there's a toggle you can see there. So the learning option is there. Once after the sessions have been completed, you can click on this toggle option to make sure that so your learning have been completed. And then the next part, once you after that, so there's a fundamental explore. So that will be review the learning materials, and you can explore to review the self-placed content. So many contents are available. You can access those contents. So examples are like the Azure concepts. So much more. It's like completely based upon the module or from the Microsoft Azure itself available. You can access the each and every module and the short videos of those will be available from the Microsoft Azure as well. You can just go through that for the learning purpose. Now you can sign into Microsoft Learn using your personal Microsoft account that you have used, and you are like once you signed in, so your learning progress will be saved for each stage. For example, you can see here the 4% have been completed. So whatever the recording that you'll watch or as the materials that you study, so based upon that, the status will be saved. So whenever you go back and you just check sign in, and the next day you can easily get to know so how much you have completed and what's the balance, and you can continue from there. So now I hope you all able to get an idea how to access your learning platform and how to register, how to verify yourself as a student. So the next stage is like an completely back at the like in cloud ready site. You can also review the review an exam tran. So for those exam which has it's like an explore, you can see that is at 900. So about the exam for each concept, or what's the weightage each concept, we are going to discuss each and every concept in the session. So we are going to discuss about describe the cloud concepts, Azure services, solutions and management tools, security and network security, as well as identity and the governance, privacy, Azure cost management, and service legal agreements. So what is the weightage? All that we are going to discuss. Once you are completed that, you should make sure that you have understood each and everything, the concepts. So you can go with an self-attest that you completed learning stage. You can claim your free practice test key. So that is what the prepare. So that's where you can see an option to claim your practice test key. So you can claim your practice test key. Once you claim that, you can learn more about the practice test. There's a guidance. You can go through the guidance and you can get much more about the practice test. How the practice, like, and what type of questions will come up. So what kind of questions will be there. So and what options will be there. That all you can access over there. Measure up your partner who provides the practice test experience, and then you can redeem this practice test key to measure up site. So go to the measure up. So in that measure up website, you can redeem your practice test key and use the practice test to become exam ready. So that's like a mock-up test or like a practice test. You can give a try over there. Okay, so after that, student certification offer. So user manual, if you do not have an account with the measure up, so you need to fill out the required details. What all the details are required? It could be a first name, last name, email, and the same email as a confirmation, and you need to provide the password, and you need to create an account. And then just sign into your measure up. So by making use of the credentials, once you sign in, so in the measure up, you can see there is a My Learning Locker on the top. So on once you go to the drop down of your account, so you can see an option as like My Learning Locker. So in the My Learning Locker, so go to the register key. On that register key, you can copy that key that has been provisioned especially for you. That's the open key. So you can access that key and paste it to the measure up side, register, redeem the key. So you can now access the complete the practice of your exam. So once you done with the studies, going through the study material, once you're able to access the practice key and you're able to go through the practice examination, so as a mock-up test or mock-up exam, so then you are good to go with your final exam. So you can claim that once your practice is completed, you will be eligible for the main exam. So for that main exam voucher, it might take like in 24 hours before your practice test being synchronized. So for that, you can go to the certify option and you can claim it. So you can claim your free examination voucher. Once you claim it, you can, if you need more information, so you can go to the useful information option at the bottom. And this completely the examination, your final examination will be taken care by the PSN View platform. So PSN View platform, you need to go through that and you need to provide your final examination. Request a form. So time to certify, book your examination. So during the booking your examination, you need to choose the date and the slot. So on which date you need to provide the examination, there will be no like a Saturday or Sunday and all. So you can once you go log into that and person view option. So in that you can see the options for which date the slots are available and what are all the time slots are available for the examinations. So you can choose those and you can provide your exam. So in this person view website, you can see schedule examination options. So there you can go ahead and schedule with person view. And here you need to provide the complete details. It's like an title will be the student. So please provide it as a student if you're a student, and then your name. So there will be a few of the options that you need to check boxes will be there. You need to select. So please go through that and select the required ones and then continue. Now, after that, the option is like and to choose the, especially to choose the slot. So one is like an at the test center. So a test center you can go, or the second one is like an option to go with an online at home or office. So this is what on view. So PSN on view option that is especially goes, the test will be taken care in the virtually. So you have to make sure that during this access, during the online examination, so your computer must have a webcam and you must have have the space which is very quiet without any disturbance. And you must have one of the government identification ID card. It could be PAN, driving license, and much more. You'll get the details over there. And the expectation is like 30 minutes before your appointment time. You need to select a language that is an English as a preferred examination language, and the examination, some of the policies will come up. Just go through the policies, try to understand the policies, and then select it. Agree for all the policies. And sometimes it is since it's an virtual, there will be an online proctor. So the proctor will be keep observing you if they want you to show back your ID card, or if they find any malfunctions happening up, or if they want to show your like a surrounding. So if there is any noises there, if they want any clarification, if they want to get some clarifications as well, so they can talk to you as well, because your mic will be accessible and your cam will be turned on and your screen will be shared. So if they found anything mismatch, so then they can ask you, they can discuss with you. So that's what the preferred language, either English or Japanese, so could be chosen. And then coming up with the date and the time. So you need to choose the right date. So which date you want to take the examination, and then the time slots. So it could be in morning or afternoon. The time slots, it will show the options. So you need to choose the specific option, the time slot that you want to take up the examination. So cool. So now you are good to take up the examination. At this stage, you should see the price of the exam, and you need to redeem the exam voucher. So once you select the examination, so it will show up what is like an it since it is added to the cart. So you need to provide the voucher to redeem. So add your voucher code by copying it, copy the voucher code that you have already have access for that you have already claimed it. So copy that voucher code and paste it over the voucher or promotion code and apply. So once you apply utilize your voucher code, so you should see that 0 as the examination fees. So once it's completely 0, so you're good to take up the examination. So when you go back to the cloud ready, your examination should be reflected for the there might be a 24 hours delay. And if you pass your examination in a attempt first or second attempt, so you are good to share your achievement. So these are the multiple stages that you need to take care of your registration of your examination. So for this reference, please download this document, which is available in the description or as in the chat box. So you can download it and keep the document offline for your access later. Cool. So now let's try to understand the AZ900, what actually the AZ900 have, what all the concepts are available in the AZ900. So we'll start with the AZ900 fundamentals, the first module today. So Microsoft Azure fundamentals, so it's completely an fundamental knowledge. There will be no much more in the pure technical. There could be a first question. What could be my prerequisite? So to take up this examination for the AZ900, so it could be taken completely either by technical or not technical. So completely, it is completely provide an information about the infrastructure, cost management, and the resources. So if you don't have any knowledge about the cloud as a fine, so it's a completely foundation level knowledge on the cloud services. So what are all those kind of services are provided from the Microsoft Azure? So you'll completely understand about the infrastructure of the cloud from the Azure and the services that has been offered from the Azure, and how the charge items like in cost management, cost billing will be happen for you for the resources that you will access. That is the billing process, and even it's like an completely the tools. What are all the different kinds of tools that you will get over the Azure? Those things that you will understand in the AZ900, the basic fundamental part. So this is the entry point. So to get into the certification, so the basic fundamental, once you get completed it, you can go with the advanced certifications. As I mentioned, so as a prerequisite, you don't need to worry about like technical background. So do I need to know the specific programming language, or else do I need to know the specific concepts? So no need to worry. So candidates with non-technical background as well, and candidates with a technical background who need to validate the foundational level. So knowledge around the cloud services could take up this examination. What are all the three things? So Microsoft Azure will keep updating their content. So for the AZ900, the syllabus, first thing is like in the latest one is just on the October have been updated. So based upon that update, so it is like in 3 modules. There are 3 modules in the AZ900. The first module is the cloud concepts. The second one is like a describe about the Azure architecture and the services, different services, how it will come up, how the backup will be maintained. So what is the completely the architecture has been there for the cloud services. And the third thing is with respect to the management and the governance part. So how the resources will be managed, what are all the different types of tools will available, how to estimate the price billing and all. So that will be discussed over the Azure management and the governance part. So during this discussion, you will completely get prepared for the AZ900 exam and to clear that exam. So you will completely understand about the cloud concepts and all. So let's start with the first thing as what is the cloud? So the first question, as already we have discussed, so at the very beginning of the session, what is cloud? So cloud means it's someone's computer, so someone's infrastructure, someone's platform to develop your code or to write your code, and someone's software as a service, so to host your application. So it's completely someone's over the internet. So that matters. Over the internet, the infrastructure will be given by someone. So you are going to access that infrastructure. So there'll be a lot of policies will be there to access that infrastructure. And so it is completely how much that you use, or as how much the infrastructure that you use, or as how much the platform that you use. So as the service, so based upon the service that you get, so you will pay for that. So it's completely cloud is a just someone's else computer, so you don't need to worry about that. So it's not like an on premises, it will be on someone's computer over the internet. So this have an ability to rent computing resources on demand. Probably you may have like 10 resources on the initial, and the very next day to scale up your business. So you need like an additional 10 more or like in 15 more resources. You no need to worry about the infrastructure, or you no need to worry about the platform. So you no need to worry about the hosting features. So you'll completely get that as a service on demand. So as you need, so you can get it from the cloud. So what does cloud computing resources means? So the resources, as is mentioned, so it says the infrastructure, Windows or Linux servers, unlimited file storage space, and it could be in multiple databases, and the queues and content delivery network, or as batch processing jobs. So much more. So it completely the infrastructure that offers, so the services that will be offered to access and to perform your action items. Okay. So now, what is like a computing resource? So computing, you want to perform something, you have a data. So there's a huge data which is coming and sitting in your database. So you want to validate, or else you want to figure out what is something. So based upon the computing, so you need to run some of the algorithms. So, or some of the algorithms that have been executed on backend. So it's like a chatbot. For example, chatbot, you don't like any physical person has to be setting up the system. So whatever the queries that come up, so the algorithms need to run and it need to figure it out. So what's the query, and based upon the response has to be given. Or else it could be like a lot of huge data is sitting in a cloud. So on the database, you need to take up the data and you need to run some algorithms, and you need to predict the, or as the forecast, the next upcoming demand, or as the next upcoming request, or as it could be an insights. What is the usage has happened, or as what is the in the business perspective, you can see in a different aspects based upon the data. There are like an 1,000 plus of an Azure service options are there, 1,000 plus different kind of an options that you will get, the resources that you will get based upon your requirement. You can choose the one you want and you can go ahead with the service to provide the service. So to understand all that, the candidates must go through the Azure 900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals examinations. And let's start with our first concept, that is with respect to the describe the cloud concept. So the weightage of this concept is like completely around like in 25 to 30%. So around in your examination, you will get like in 25 to 30% of your questions from this topic. So about the cloud concept. So here also you can, we are going to understand much more the subtopics, especially while describing the cloud computing. What is cloud computing? There's a responsibility model in between the public, private, and hybrid. So what is this public, private, and hybrid cloud? And what is the responsibility model? How much the responsibility we need to take care? And in these different models, and as well as the use case for each model, and what is the consumption-based model, pricing, cloud-based pricing models. So these are the different ones that we are going to understand in the first subtopic, that is the cloud computing. In the second subtopic, we are going to discuss much more about the benefits of using the cloud services. So it could be benefits of an availability, scalability in the cloud, or else it could be an reliability and predictability in the cloud, or else it could be benefits from the security aspects and governance in the cloud, and manageability, how it's easy to manage the things, how it's easy to manage the resources. So in that aspects, we are going to discuss the much more benefits of the cloud services. And as a third last subtopic in the main module one, so for this module one, the last subtopic will be the cloud service types. So as an infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. We are going to understand each of them and with respect to the each use cases for each and everything. So in the cloud services. Without delay, let's go ahead and start with our first subtopic about the describing the cloud computing. First thing is like cloud computing. So we already discussed actually. So what the cloud computing is? So cloud computing is specifically the ability to rent the computing services. It could be like an all type of compute, storage, networking, database, machine learning, etc. So these are like a different ones you can compute, you can rent the computing services remotely over the internet, and some available to use for only for few minutes. So you want to compute, you run an algorithm. So you don't want to, for example, there is a database. In a database, whatever the data is there, you want to compute it. You want to run the analytics for monthly ones. If it is a monthly ones, what is the point of renting the service completely full of month? Only one time you can take. So that's why you pay based upon that time as well. So available to use for only few minutes, or what is the how many minutes that you need, or else like how many hours that you need, you can access this resource, you can compute the perform the action, pay only for what you use, and no contract or long-term commitments required for this. So it's like by end of the day, how much that you pay for that. So that's what the cloud computing is. This having ability to unlock so much of value in the aspect of a business, like mind to yours and to deliver your products and services to the end user. So what the cloud computing will provide, so it will provide like a shared response. Okay, it can provide you like, especially it will reduce your upfront investment required. So once you think of like on premises, lot of investment that you keep. So a lot of investment about the infrastructure with respect to the hardware part, with respect to your system, with respect to the maintenance, lot of an investment that you need to keep up. So in the cloud computing concept, so it will reduce your upfront investment. So you don't need to worry about to invest a lot of money for the infrastructure. So as a part of upfront for your business, and ongoing or monthly cost savings that you can take care for your business, and also vast catalog of computing services that you are able to use to serve your customers that could like an otherwise it will be like enable to you with increased performance, availability, and security to the end user could be taken care. So let's see what kind of responsibilities will be there. So for that, there is a model which is called as like a shared responsibility model. So this will give the comparison of your responsibility over the on-premises or as a as like an virtual machine, or as the application, and even with respect to the completely on the Azure. So which one will reduce the responsibility? So for which one you need to take much more responsibility? So we'll discuss that one. So think that when you run services in your own office, it's completely on premises. So if it is own office means on premises, you're not accessing nothing from the cloud. It's completely on premises. So if it is completely on the on premises, there could be a lot of responsibility you need to take care. So your responsibilities, especially first one is like in building security. It's not like anyone can, you have you need a space first of all. So the first thing is like you need a space to place your infrastructure. So you need a place to place your hardware or the servers and all, and the servers will get heat so fast. You need an cooling for that, so you need an air conditioner room for that one as well, which will be running all the time, so 24/7. So to avoid the access from anyone, you need a building security wherever that you have placed. So the server or it's the database that you're maintaining, the servers that you have hosted. So that server room, especially you need a building security and you need a physical network security. So for that, the complete like a network connectivity is required, 24/7 internet is required. So physical network security is required. So it's not mean that the server anyone can access it. It could be accessible only for limited person. You have to make sure that it's limited only for few of them to access. So physical network security, physical computer security. So even the specific provision, only authorized person can access that setup. So only authorized person, so authorized support team guy, or as like an authorized security team guy. So only that from the IT team or as anyone could have access it. Lot of application that could be used when you host a server or else like when you host the databases and all. So there are a lot of patches will be keep on coming up. So it could be an operating system patch, or else it could be an application that you have used. So for that, lot of things, updates will be coming up. You need to take care of those updates, network and firewall setting. So it's very easy if you are not maintaining a security aspect. So anyone can access your database or servers, and then they can fetch the data from your database. They can like an accurate complete network. So for that, you need to maintain the network and the firewall settings. So you need to take care of the security as well, the network security, and then the application settings, authentication, the platform. So you need to take care of an specific applications configurations are required. You could have make use of a lot of applications. So if you are building a business, so just like in one of the website and you are storing your end user data, and if you're hosting a service as application as a service, lot of things, data from the end user which is coming up. And if you are computing the data, and you need to take care of all that information in a secured way, and the configurations you need to take care, and even the authentication platform. So it's not mean that everyone who will work in your organization will get an access to it. Only the limited will get an access to it. So that's what an authentication, you will authenticate it each and every account. So only the authenticated person will have access to the resources. And the user account is one, there's an account management. So there will be a super admin, and lot of an employees over there. So only the specific authorized person will take care of an adding a person, or as like and removing the person. If someone new comes, if someone need a permission, so the super admin will take that's the user management, the account management. You can add a newer person to that account, or as you can remove that person. So and devices as well. So if you are adding a new database storage, you are connecting to your network. So if you are connecting your system, much more systems to your server, so you need to take care of it. And the huge data will be sitting in your database. So as a on local premises, so there's on premises, you need to take care of that data as well in a safer way, so you won't lose the data. And if you are keeping the backup by chance, if any due to the natural calamities, or as due to the any reason, if you come across the challenge that you lose the data, so then in such cases you need to maintain the backup as well. So the lot of expenses will come up with the same infrastructure you need to maintain for the backup as well. So these are the different responsibilities will come in picture. So as like an we can see each and every stage the network engineer is required, security engineer is required. So lot of an engineers the like you need to maintain, and even in different stage from the physical, or as it could be like a network part or a specific, or it could be an account management, even the devices. So in each and every stage you need to take care of the responsibility. So the on-premises is just going to give you a lot of responsibility if you are building up a organization, or if you are new to like a business. So instead of concentrating on towards your business or to your, especially for whatever your target, so the thing will make you to look at your only handling all this. So it will make you to spend much more your time and the investment completely on this, especially in the configurations, especially in the keeping a setup of your infrastructure. So it's going to be completely lot of waste of money, and if it is not very well utilized, and even it could be going to like a lot of expensive. Even if you want to procure, so you can't like, and if you don't want, it's not, it's of, it will lay back as a not used infrastructure. So each and every stage, if as you scale up the business, again you need to keep on investing for the on-premises infrastructure, and the maintenance and monthly basis, like, and it could be like an yearly basis, the maintenance could be like an expensive as well. So these are the different responsibilities that you need to look into it if you go through the on premises. So the next is virtual machine. So you may think of, I don't want to go with an on premises, I will completely go with an virtual machine. So in such case, so you'll find only the three things. One, virtual means it's completely and digital. So instead of keeping the thing on premises, you are keeping the things in a virtual way. So only your system is going to be a virtual. So since your system is going to be a virtual, so that is like an soft copy. So before going to like an understanding, the physical system, the hardware that you're going to have in a virtual machine. So your system is going to be remotely on a cloud. So, but in the virtual machine, you no need to take care of in physical computer security, because physical hardware won't be there, and you don't need to take care of in physical network security, because your physical network configurations, network setup is not required. And your system is completely on virtual, that's on the cloud. And since due to that reason, you don't need to take care of the building security. You will come out of all these three, only the three responsibilities, except that, so for sure, even on the virtual machine, you need to take care of an operating system patch. So because operating system which is running, the system which is running on virtually, the virtual machine is completely under your control. So it's completely similar to an physical device, so which is sitting on a virtual, that's it. So as a software. So you need to update the software in your virtual machine. You need to update the applications, or else you need to perform the configurations with respect to the network and the firewall settings, application settings, the update release related to the applications. You need to make it. Authentication of that virtual machine access will also be taken care, and even the user accounts authentications, and even multiple device and the data which is going to store. So you need to take care of all those things. So if you are jumping on to the virtual machine, so you are going ahead with only the just missing up the only the three responsibilities. Only you don't need to take care of an building responsibility, and it's mainly it's completely and physical ones. So physical network and the physical computer security. Only these three things you don't want to take care. Remaining everything will be over the cloud, and you need to take care of it. So the very next one will be application service. So if it is an application service, you no need to take care of it. One more thing. So as an app service, operating system patches. So you don't need to take care of an app like an app service. You don't want to take care of the, again, as an app service, the completely the system configuration settings, everything will be over the cloud. So again, you don't want to take care of a building security or like a physical network, computer network, or operating system patches. And just you need to take care of responsibility related to the network and firewall settings, application settings, and authentication platform. Here, one thing you can see here, it's a shared. So partial, it's kind of a partial one. So you need to take care of in partial configurations over there. But the user account, so those who will access it remotely. So those who will completely access your service, like what it could be like an virtual remotely, which is running the application. Those who need an access. So your team, your developer, your testing team. So that is especially you need to take care the user accounts and the devices and the data. So the data storing stored in your cloud. So all that you need to take care as well. So what all the benefits that you will get if you are jumping on completely as a software as a service. So this what we will call as like a SaaS. When you use SaaS, software as a service, you are responsible for very few things. So it's mainly like an authentication platform. You just need to take care of an user account, devices, and the data. The remaining all the other things, the responsibilities, you no need to take care of it at all. So now the thing is, so you no need to invest in advance. You no need to invest much more for your business as in advance, or else you no need to concentrate instead of your service or the instead of your business much more about the infrastructure. So, and even as the responsibility reduces, even the maintenance with respect to the physical will also be reduced. So you don't want to worry about the much more maintenance on the physical way, or else with respect to the building perspective, or else with the physical network perspective, or else with respect to the computer security aspects, operating system patches, or as the application patches that to be taken care, and even application settings. So you don't want to take care of all those if it is a completely software as a service. So as a SaaS part. So that's the major benefit most of the business that is looking for. So due to that reason, so just looking into the shared responsibility model. So the blue ones will showcase the customer responsibility. The shared responsibility is the like a partial you can see here. So as a SaaS, software as a service, as a PaaS, platform as a service, as an infrastructure as a service, and if it is a on-premises. So if it is an on-premises, you need to take care of all the responsibilities. That the blue ones will represent the customer, and the like and just light branch one will just represent the Azure based responsibilities. So if it is a completely dark blue, it's an end user responsibility. He has to take care of all the responsibilities always returned by customer. Responsibilities vary. So some of them here you can see a responsibilities varies by service type. And the third thing is like a responsibility transfer to cloud provider. So it's like an information and data, devices, and then accounts and identity. Which account, who is the person is going to access that account. So those identification and which are all the devices accessing the cloud, for example. So to access your data, for sure, you need one system just to access your cloud as well. For example, if you want to drop an email, you don't need to install the application. You can go back to the browser. So at least to go to the use the browser, either you can make use of a mobile or a PC, single PC. So and the information and the data, so that data you need to push. So you need to provide it. So those things is completely either as a on-premises or as a SaaS or as cloud computing platform. So it's completely by the end customer, its responsibility. But if you go for an identity or as like a directory infrastructure, who is going to access the data? So that identification, applications, and the networking control, operating system management. If you look at these things, so as a software as a service and platform as a service, partial responsibility will be there for the end user, and the partial return back on the Azure side. But if it is an on-premises and the infrastructure part, so it's completely responsibility comes up to the customer, so end customer. And if you look into the physical part, physical host, physical network, physical data center. So in such case, it's completely you are going to hand over the responsibility to the Azure. So if you are making use of an cloud computing services or a software as a service or platform as a service, or if you look into the infrastructure as a service. If it is an on-premises, again, as a end customer, you need to take care of that as well. So lot of an um, responsibility that has to be taken care. Okay, so now let's try to understand what is like a different types of a cloud. So what is a public cloud, private cloud, and even the hybrid cloud? So we already discussed this in the very beginning of the session. So public cloud. So public cloud is like cloud service, especially provided over the public internet. So just I'm repeating the back. So it is the services, different kind of services provided over the public internet to anyone who want to like an you want to sign up for them. So for example, if you just sign up or sign in, just get access the data. So in this case, Azure wants the hardware and you will rent it for them. You are just going to host the data if it is like in public cloud, so there will be no privacy. Anyone, the public internet, so it's completely on the public internet, anyone over the internet can be able to access the data. So anyone can access the data remotely. So the public, that's the definition is like defined as the computing services offered by third-party providers over the public internet, making them available to anyone who wants to use or purchase them. Here, Azure wants the hardware, and here in this case, on the network and the infrastructure. So it's completely, you don't want to take care of the network, you don't want to take care of the infrastructure, and you don't want to take care of the hardware as well. So everything will be taken care by the Azure. So just you host the data and it will be kept as like in public cloud, anyone can access it remotely. Second thing is like a private cloud. So private, the name itself type mentions that it's like a private data. So cloud services offered here only for a selected user. So for a selected customer, or as like for a selected specific whoever the account has been created for that person. So this is sometimes it is like called as like an internal cloud. So the private cloud can be also called as like an internal. So you can see here over the definition as well. So services offered either over the internet or like a private internal network. So internal network, which is called as like an internal cloud or as like a private cloud. So looks and acts like a cloud computing, but user resources and servers here available only to specifically to your company or as to an organization. It won't be available for the public. It's not for the general data. So in this case as well, you are you will have the like a completely exclusive ownership of the data. So it's only limited access to the customer. So only, for example, if it is like a private data within your organization, it has to be shared, or else you can authorize users only for a few specific authorized users. Then you can choose those users as well. The third thing is like an hybrid. So hybrid cloud is completely a mixture. So it is between the own private network and servers, and also using the public cloud for something else. So you want to store some data as a private network, and in addition, you want to store some information as a public for something. Some data has to be public, which whoever try to access it over the internet, it must be available. So you can make them available as a public as well, and you can keep some of the data in the private network and servers as well as like which is limited to an specific authorized accounts. So you can take advantage of like the unlimited inexpensive growth benefits over the public cloud as well. So combination of in public and private clouds. So scale private infrastructure to the cloud. Uh, Scalability part in the private infrastructure to the cloud can be happens easily. Let's see the compare and the contrast. So looking into the comparison of all the three, so it is public, private, and the hybrid. So first thing is like in the public cloud, so you can Azure owns the hardware and their network and the infrastructure. So they will own the hardware and their network and infrastructure. But if you look at the private cloud, so in the private cloud, it looks and acts like a cloud here, except the customer won't. So for example, it's like completely like in remote, except customer owns or leases or exclusive access to the hardware. So those who have like a specifically access to the data, those who have like a limited access, only can access to the specific hardware or as to the data over there. So hybrid is like a combination of an private and the cloud data. So sorry, private and the public data. So which can scale the private infrastructure to the cloud. So this will be the major difference in between the public, private, and the hybrid. Okay, and based on the understanding of all this, the responsibilities and the different types of a cloud. So we have understand what kind of a responsibility will be there if it is an on-premises, what kind of a responsibility will be there if it is an virtual machine, and what kind of a responsibilities will come in if it is an application service, and also as the last software as a service. So in each case, what kind of a different responsibilities will come up? By understanding on that part, and then we have understood the different clouds. It could be like a public cloud, private cloud, and the hybrid cloud. So let's try to understand the consumption based model, which is like a cloud pricing models. So cloud pricing model can be complicated. It's based upon, it's not like a straightforward. It's completely based upon the user, how much the resource, how much the data that is accessing it. So cloud pricing is like in complicated. It's completely especially it's like completely depends what are the different type of resources that you're using. Based upon you will be charged. Okay. So now for example, you can take like different metrics will be there. Metrics is like, for example, you want to host a database, and the database to host a database, first thing is like you need a one server to which interact with then customers and to pull in the data. And once it's pulling the data, you need to take care of the data storage. So once the data has been stored, you need some algorithms. So algorithm is to just to run based upon the data which is storing in a cloud, execute the specific algorithms to bring out the insight. Based upon the insights, so you can showcase a nice graphical interface. So different multiple resources will run based upon the different metrics. So few things you may go based upon the usage. For example, database. Database is completely based upon how much the usage that you will get into it. So it could be like an 2 GB, or else like it could be 200 GB, or else it could be like an 500 petabytes. So or else you can go with an like an unlimited usage based upon your scale up in business. But algorithms that you need analytics, for analytics monthly once. So one thing is based upon the usage. it's completely one thing based upon as much that you use, and second thing is like as much that you uh, especially is like an based upon the time. So one thing is based upon the space is if spaces. It's like an you use it for like an GB of database, and few things is based upon the time. So for example, 5 minutes if you are using the analytics algorithm, so then it could be like an easy to compute the things and get it complete only once, and with the resources which are not used, so you just don't need to pay for that. It's completely based upon the rental basis. Different metrics will be combined to pay for the service. Okay, so you can see in this example, it's a Cosmos DB. So in this one, operations are included. So you may think of only one resource that you are going to rent. So the thing is like, first you take up a Cosmos DB as a resource. So first thing you need an operation. It is to read the data, write the data, and also read and write. Two like in different permissions are required. Some type you need only few limited requirements. So you just want to store the data. For example, in the database, you need to collect the data from the customer and you need to store it on the database. So that is like writing the data. Sometimes once after the collecting the data and storing it in database, you need to read back. So you need both the permission, read and write. So you're taking the both the permission, read and write permissions. So, and this is the operations based upon requirement, and then consumer storage, how much the storage that you are consuming, and the optional dedicated gateway. So based upon the security aspect and backup, the data has been stored. It may ask you to choose, do you need a backup if it is like very important data, and if it is like in very you need to make sure that it has be stored very secured way, very important for the business. So then you could go for like storing the data in a backup where like to store the backup storage in a different region. So then like different metrics will be considered. So you can see here. So if you may think of only one resource, the Cosmos DB that you are going to especially that you are going to take up. So but the different metrics will be considered: operations, storage, dedicated gateway, backup storage, 7 backup, for example. On all the different things, the data will be stored and that you are using, that you are performing the operation in a Cosmos DB, you will be charged. So different metrics will be considered based upon billing your resources. Okay, so it's not mean that every service in the Azure will be like a completely charged. So some of the services that you'll get free of service. So you may think like, yes, but there will be limitations over there as well. Let's try to understand which are the different free services are available. First thing is like an virtual network. So free services are always like in free, and like you can call it as like in free tier or as like in free with a certain limit. So it's not like completely unlimited free. So first thing is like in virtual network. So virtual network is not a virtual machine. So many will get confused here. So there's a lot of difference in between the virtual machine and the virtual network. So virtual network is to connect the virtual machines in between. So if you have a local network, there will be multiple systems. So connecting those systems one another or each other. So that network connectivity is the local network. So but the virtual machines will be connected each other, which is called as like a virtual network. And then private address. Private IP address is not a public. So public IP address will be charged. Only the private IP address will be free. So make sure that, so first thing is like a virtual network, it's not a virtual machine. And the second thing is like a private IP address, it's not like a public IP address. Azure migrate and internet traffic, inbound traffic and the outbound traffic. So inbound is like an data that you are pushing into the cloud. So it's not an outbound. Outbound is going to be very, very expensive. In the coming up discussion, I will explain why the outbound will be very expensive. Only the inbound will be completely free. Inbound internet traffic will be free. So it means that if you are pushing the data to the cloud from the external resources, from, for example, on premises, in your system, you may have like an 500 GB of data. Just as an example, I'm taking up. So you want to push that 500 GB of a data to the Azure clouds. So that is an inbound traffic, internet traffic. So that will be completely going to be free. 5 GB of an outbound internet traffic. So you can see there is a limit for the outbound. So only the 5 GB, which is very, very limited. And Azure policy, Azure Active Directory. So we are going to discuss what are the Azure policies, what are all the Azure Active Directory, all those things that we are going to discuss in the next module, that is the module 2. And 1 million executions Azure function. So this may sound interesting, 1 million, wow, but the thing is like 1 million is very less. So 1 million Azure functions, we will understand what is Azure function as well. So we will understand, don't worry, Azure application services, Azure Active Directory, that is an AAD, or as Azure AD, we will call it, Azure policy, and the Azure functions, everything that we are going to understand in depth. So in the module 2. Second thing is like pay for time. So certain services charge by the time. So it's not like a free. It's not. So it's, as we discussed just now, it's not a free, but you need to pay based upon the time. For example, virtual machine. So you'll turn up the virtual machine. How much the virtual machine, the time that you'll use that machine. So you'll pay based upon that. So some things that you need to pay based upon hourly or like in minutes, and even few things will differ. So it will based upon like services will differ based upon the performance and services that you choose. If it's like virtual machine, means virtual machine is not completely like time. So you may, there's a lot of difference. If you're choosing a RAM of 2 GB, or if you're choosing a RAM of like an 120 GB. So a lot of differences will be there. Application services, database that you use, and load balancers. So a lot of an load will be there. So a lot of an huge data, huge request is coming to your server. So how to handle that load, and even with respect to the managed storage. And as I told already, the as I told, like an private IP is different. This is a public IP address. For public IP address, how much that you use. So for that public IP address, again, you need to pay for that. The public IP address is charged. So very common logical way to pay for something. Yes, how much that you use, pay for that. It's like an rented. For example, if you rent a vehicle, so pay for the vehicle that you use. So pay as much you use it. So pay on based upon the time. So in the same way, based upon the time, the virtual machine that you use, based upon the application service that you use, based upon the database that you use, or as load balancers between the servers to handle the huge data, and even the managed storage, or else it could be an public IP address. So free ones are different. Once you are completing with the free, some of the services could be based upon the time you need to be paid. Pay per GB. The third option is like an completely based upon the usage. So when we hear about an GB, so it's obviously it's completely about the usage, data storage. So how much the data storage? If you are not happy, if you're not a customer, so like not much more interested. So if you're not interested to store the end user data, and if you are storing very, very less data, so it could be very, very less storage, and just go ahead and pay for that. So very limited GB, for example, 1000 GB that I'm like, or as just it could be like an 50 GB. So just pay for the GB, and very next day, if you scale up the business, or if you change the business infrastructure, or if the business model, and the next day you may think of, I need to store the huge data. So, and if you start up to store the huge customer data, In such cases, the data could be like an huge, and it can go up like around like an terabytes or petabytes and all. In such cases, easily you can scale up. The scalability is very easier. The scalability is very good in this cloud perspective. So easily you can scale up the business and pay for that. Backup. So completely it's based upon the, if you think that you need a very secure data back storage, and if you think that the data has to be in multiple regions, so you can keep the data backup. Unmanaged disk, so you no need to worry about then what kind of data you need to store, and or you can store an video, you can store an images, you can store different kinds of data as well. Network traffic between the regions. So network traffic more than 5 GB per month. So different things that you need to pay based upon the usage. Pay for operations. So each operations can cost. I already explained that. Some customer may be just writing the data to the database. So it means updating the data to the database. Some customers are especially like maybe wants to store the data in a database, and then they want to read back the data as well. And some customers, they don't want to like just write and read. If a customer is not active for more than 2 years, they want to delete that customer data and want to store the database usage, or as to save the database usage. So there are like a different scenarios could be there. So it's completely based upon the operations. Unmanaged storage is the way. So if you perform only reading the data from the database, or is just writing the data to the database, or performing read and write, so pay for the like an operations that you'll perform. And database queries, how many queries will come up. Messaging, so how many like in requests will come up. So messaging information that will be stored. So based upon the actions, operations that will be taken care, so you need to pay for that. Usually charged per bulk. It's not like an so 251 operations has been performed. It will be like an completely based upon how many times or as how many requests. So there will be like in block, there will be like in slot. So you need to purchase that slot, or else you need to choose that options, and you need to pay for that. So pay a million request, or as pay for a 10,000 request, or as pay for a like an 50,000 request, database request, or as practical reasons, especially based upon the cost, will be taken care of. The fifth one is pay per execution. So as I told already, so it's a completely a serverless. We are going to discuss what is actually server based and what is completely a serverless. You don't want to worry especially in the software as a service. You don't need to worry about how to host my application, or as how to host my service that has been like in web application, or as any kind of an applications. You just concentrate on writing code, compile it, and deploy it. So you just concentrate on building your business. So you don't worry about an hosting as a server, as a server. So because there will be like a concept of like server and client communication. So we are all customers, we are all client, and if you are reaching to a specific website, that will be running as a server. So you don't want to worry about the server, hosting a server and all. So just in a Azure or as the cloud computing concept, so you just take care of writing your program, build your application, or as upgrade your applications, increase number of features, concentrate on increasing the features, or as concentrate much more about the increasing with respect to the business, and then concentrate to compile those programs what you have written, and then deploy these programs more good enough. So this will be run as a serverless. You just don't worry about the server part and all hosting for your application. So it's complete. It just offers like it just charge you for each time the program runs. So that is the Azure functions. It's a consumption model, and serverless databases, messaging services, logical applications. So based upon the execution, how many times that you execute, how many times the functions can execute, how many times the serverless database will be executed, messaging service, logical applications will execute. Based upon the executions, it will be completely charged. The last one is like an other metrics. There's an feature which is called as like an active directory premium service charge per assigned user. So there will be like a multiple users will be there. In we are going to discuss what is an Azure Active Directory, what is an AAZ. So we are going to discuss that. So premium services charge per assigned user. So we are going to discuss that in the module 2. So different metrics will be there. So based upon that metrics, you will be charged. So coming back, like to understand, you will be charged on based upon the multiple factors. So there's the first thing is like an free tier. So you will get few of the services completely free, and some more will be like a charge. So if you look into that, which one will be charged, you will be charged based upon pay as based upon the time, pay for time. So certain services charged based upon the time. And second thing is like a pay per GB. So it is like you make you have to almost the data that you use, or else you may have to pay per the GB that you use. And the third thing is like based upon the pay for operations. Each operations also cost a fraction of a fraction will be like an penny of the charges, and some of them will be like a pay per execution. So from as like a serverless offer, just charge you for each time the program runs. And the other metrics is like an Azure, as we can see at the Azure Active Directory Premium Service charge per assigned users. And one more very important thing to understand is like this pricing will completely vary based upon the regions. So we will understand the infrastructure. What are the regions? And in that region, there is something called as like a zone will come up. So we'll try to understand what is zone. And in zone, so there is like in data centers. So we will understand what is data centers. All this, the infrastructure will understand in detail in the module 2. So just for now, understand that pricing will changes between the regions. There could be like a multiple regions in Azure. So on each region perspective, if a specific region is very demand, so for that region, so you will be charged much more. Okay, so looking into the subtopics, first is like an describing about the cloud concepts in the module 1. So we discussed about the what is like in cloud computing and what is the shared responsibility model. So shared responsibility model is like responsibly what are the responsibilities that you need to take care if it is an on-premises. And also we understood what are all the responsibility you need to take care if it is a virtual machine. And also we went on and as we understood what are all the responsibilities that need to be taken care if it is an application as a service. And as a last, if it is a software as a service, what are all the responsibilities, which is very minimal responsibilities that you need to take care. We have understood each and every stage of responsibility in the from the responsibility model. Then we have jumped on to the cloud concepts, the cloud models, the public, private, and the hybrid. And we have understood all the three of them. What is the major difference between the public cloud and the private cloud and the hybrid cloud? And then we identify the appropriate use cases for each of the cloud model. So, and then we jumped on to the consumption-based model. So we will be charged on which are the different factors that will be charged, and we compare the cloud pricing models as well. As a second subtopic model, in this model 1, so we are going to describe the benefits. So benefits of using the cloud service is like an availability, scalability perspective, or as like an reliability and the predictability in the cloud, or as the benefits of the security and the governance in the cloud, and even the benefits with respect to the manageability in the cloud. How the support will be given in the cloud from each factors. So benefits of an cloud services, there are much more are there. So it could like in vertical scaling, horizontal, if it is a scalability. So in that also much more will come up, availability and the scalability and all. Yeah, here it is. So the benefits are like in cost saving. So both real and the accounting. So in both the perspective, how the cost savings could be done, availability and the scalability. So each one we will look into it. So is it separately? Reliability and the predictability, security and governance, manageability, global reach, range of ready on demand service, range of tools. So let's look into each of them. We'll try to understand how these the benefits will work from the Azure and how these benefits will be helpful for the business. First, as a cost saving. So if you look into this as a OPEX, operational on-premises operational expenditure, whereas like in capex, like in capital expenditure, in both the perspective. So the cash flow, if you look into it, so the expenses could be much more very high. So and the Microsoft investment wants to make it. If it is an on-premises, the capex will be very high as the year goes on. So even like once the investment has huge investment has done on the on-premises, as it goes on, based upon the yearly the maintenance, that is the operational cost, operational expenditure could be also very huge. So you need to take care of both the perspective on-premises expenditure, and there is the OPEX and the CAPEX part, and how the Azure will cost and the Azure cases as well. So if you look into it, cost savings in real economies of scale, so the total cost of ownership. So you don't need to worry about an electricity, internet, cooling, or as the employee. So if it is an on-premises, that is a TCO, total cost of ownership will be has to be taken care. So as a on-premises, you need to take care of the internet. As an on-premises, you need to take care of an electricity, on-premises cooling, on-premises employee as a security employee, or as a security engineer, or as the database engineer, and a network infrastructure engineer. So multiple things that you need to be taken care. Microsoft can run a server cheaper than anyone else with few exceptions. So the 4 CPU server as low as like an $187 per month. So that's a very basic one, goes with a very few of the charge will be like a very cheaper way you can run the server in a cloud. You can take actions to reduce your cost. That is an auto scaling. So auto scaling is the way. So as your business is increasing, the scaling, as your business is increasing, as you want to scale up. So it is like completely ability of the system to grow the capacity easily. When a system reaches is like a maximum capacity, if it is an on-premises, that could be a challenging part. But when you go with an auto scaling process, so you can easily it could be like a vertical scaling, or it could be an horizontal scaling. So usually you can take care of your business, the scalability you can increase. High availability is a while like a system, whenever a system, especially specifically like designed to be like an resilient when some components of the system fails. So in such cases, high availability. So when any system went on failure, or as any device fault has happened. So in such case, high availability. But in case of a cloud, you no need to worry about that. So everything will be taken care in the as a perspective of an high availability. So this percentage, for example, if you think of an high availability, what percentage of time does the system respond properly on your request? If you express it in a percentage over the time, it's like in completely 99.99% availability in place up to like in 4 minutes per month on acceptable downtime. So that's what the acceptable downtime, 4 minutes, that to like in 4 nines, that's the 4 minutes per month as a downtime, as an acceptable downtime, which you can see, or else everything all the time, it will be like an very feasible and scalable and available. Yeah. Scalability, as I mentioned, so it's completely ability to, of a system to grow its capacity easily when the system reaches is like an when it reaches with an extends the limit, the threshold value, or as the extends the capacity. So this is what the ability of the system to handle the growth of the users or the growth of the worker or as the growth of the data which is coming in. We can see here, so every time if you have on-premises storage, so if the customer data is huge data is coming up, and if you think of the customer data is a very huge data and if it is flowing in, so you could have a limited storage, and that's the maximum capacity. If it has been reached, so then your application may fail. So then your server may go down. So a lot of challenges you could have faced. Number of concurrent users requesters come up. So there will be a lot of handling the capacity has to be taken. How to scale up, for example, a lot of requests are coming up for your application. How to handle the load balance. So how to perform the load balancing. So all these to be taken care. So in the cloud, it will be easily taken care as a benefit you can see over the cloud. Elasticity is a way, it is like an ability of a system to automatically grow and shrink. So elasticity, it can like as like a rubber. So you can, if you want, you can make use of in multiple access. If you want, you can extend, or else you can access much more. Or else want to think of, you don't want multiple resources, or else you don't want multiple data storage, you can come back to the limited one. You can minimize the you can shrink the resources, you can minimize the access, database access, or else you can reduce it. So the elasticity is like a way you can expand or as maximize the capacity as you reach, or as automatically shrink to minimize the waste which is not used. If it is an on-premises, if you are not using also, it is going to be get waste. But in case of a cloud, it's not the case. So in cloud, if you are not used, if that completely, if you're not using the service, for example, the data storage or as the resources, you no need to worry about in such cases. So you're just going to utilize how much that is required, and you're going to pay for that. So this is the graph, like an based upon the user demand, the capacity will be increased for the system, the capacity of the resources, or else the capacity of the storage, or else it could be like any other resource, it will be increased. But once you think of the demand is increasing, you can shrink and you can avoid the wastage as well. The next is like a reliability and predictability. So reliability is like consists of like in two principles. One is like an resiliency and as well as availability. So to restore the systems and applications after a failure occur and provide consistent access to the system and applications, we will make use of an reliability. So it is much more reliable. It could be a disaster recovery. So disaster recovery is like an ability to recover from the big failure within an acceptable period, or as within an acceptable amount of data lost. So which is acts as a disaster recovery. So Microsoft publishes a service level agreement SaaS for their services. So this is the like an agreements service levels agreement has been published to and to make an guaranteed confirmation between both the parties, financial guarantee of their performance, and Azure has established a procedure for a rollout and regional recovery, and much more. So even with respect to the predictability, is like a performance predictability and the cost predictability. So you can predict. So based upon the execution that you're performing, the rest that you using the resources, or what will be the performance, and also you can predict the cost as well. So the like, and if you are what the resources that you are using, or else the application, the servers that you are using, the infrastructure that you are using, and the platform that you're using, so and the software as a service, so how much that has been used. So based upon all this, you can predict the cost as well. So you can, by end of the month or as like an yearly, what will be the cost, you can predict it as well. So next is like we'll discuss about an availability sets and zones. So this will give the tool for like in backup and site recovery. So I was mentioning about, and there will be like an available regions and multiple regions and all. Let's try to understand what is a region and what is the set and what is like in zones especially, and what is the data center and all. There's an Char Studio which can simulate the failures using the Char Studio if it's required. Yeah. So the major benefit over here is like in global reach. So you can have a global access, global reach. So you can provide. So it's not like a limited access. So from anywhere from the globe, you can access your data. So it's a completely and global infrastructure. It's not like a limited infrastructure that you're going to run over. Looking into that, it's not like impossible for most of the businesses to run their centers like an server center or centers, database center in the multiple countries. So that could be covered up in the using the cloud computing services. So this is the Azure like in regions. So where all that you can make use of the services. So for example, the blue one. So these are all the available regions. In India, for example, if you look into it, there's an West India, Central India, and the South India. The three regions we have. So, and you can see here multiple regions are there. For example, US, UK, North America, and if you go towards the China, so multiple Australia, even in Australia, like in Australia Southeast, Australia East, Australia Central 2, and South Africa North, South Africa West. So like in different regions, you can see. Israel is the central one among all the regions. And you can observe one thing here, there is a dot. So on the like in white dot on the blue one, which is we called as like an availability zone. So there are like in multiple zones are there. If you look into that East US and East US 2. So which are the zones? Central US and West US 2 zones, and North Europe, South UK South, and Northwest, and the France Central are the multiple different zones you can see over here. So we will discuss what actually the zone is. Just meanwhile, try to understand there is a concept of like a region. So multiple regions that you can keep your data backup and you can run the resources. So in multiple regions, there is another concept which is called as like an zones. And one more thing is like an announced region. So you can see the dotted one, so which is coming up announced region, the central Israel central. So you can see here announced region, which is the dotted one. Yeah, so before going into the depth, so let's understand about the security and the governance part, and then we'll get back to the region-wise architecture. Security, yes, it's like a full-time job. So you may all seen that. So for example, a bank, or else it could be like an ATM. So you could have seen that the security will like it's not a job for like a morning 9 to evening 6. It's a completely and 24/7 full time, right? So we need to take care of the security. So in the same way, the data is like in money. Data security has to be taken care. So to protect the applications mainly and the data from the threats and from the hacking. So to protect from a lot of applications, lot of resources that you're running, and lot of data that you are stored in the database. So to secure those data from the security point, so you need to have a secured full-time job. And for that security, for example, you may think of like, and we will make use of a firewall, network security, and all. So in addition, so there's like technology which is like an artificial intelligence and machine learnings will be used. So what this will do, it will learn from the network. So it could be a virtual network. So it could learn from the network what kind of an networks or what kind of a request is impacting the bringing up the threat, and it will based upon the learnings, and the artificial intelligence system will update the firewall. So to provide the security, so the system will take care, the technology will take care of and updating the firewalls. So the network configurations. So what is like a firewall? If you ask, the firewall is just completely a set of rules. So the firewall will tell what all the kind of a request can come in, or as like an inbound and the outbound and all. So just for understand, so firewall is a kind of a set of rules. It will tell what kind of a request need to come up and come out, go out. Identity is the number one attack vector. So identity protection is a key. So for example, if how the threat will come up, or as how someone will hack. So it is from some person. So there's an identity. For example, if you try to access your Google Drive or the Gmail account, the identity is your email address and the phone number. So that email address is a backup email address will be there, or is the phone number which will send an OTP and you will enter it. So authentication will be taken care. So the uniquely you will be identified based upon your email address. That is the unique identification. So here as well, so there must be a process which will take care of an identification of the authorized person. Who is authorized? For them only it need to provide an access. Who is an unauthorized? It needs to block them, or else it needs to avoid the access for the unauthorized ones. So that is the one thing as an identity need to take care. And also the identity protection is key. So that is a major it could be like an, if you take up the devices, so which laptop that need to access your cloud, or as like which devices need to access the cloud, or as which person as an identified person it need to access your cloud or as the resources. The identification is the main thing as a for the protection. It's the main first stage as a key it works. So basic DDoS protection is much more denial of service. So that is the completely free of service in the Azure. And looking into the data governance, so there could be like a lot of policies, procedures of your company that protect your account and your data. So that is what the data governance, the policies and the procedures. So it will be taken care from the Azure. So with respect to the policies and what are the different procedures need to be taken care of your company to protect your account and to protect the identity and the data. So the Azure will completely have a separate policies for that. So I have separate blueprints. It's kind of a template. So blueprint means it's a kind of a template with respect to the rules. So this kind of a rules. So for example, this kind of a data need to be backed up. So very huge important data, and a multi-factor authentication, multiple ways of an authentication need to be taken care for some of the accounts. So this kind of an different governance would be taken care as a part of a policy and the blueprint. Monitoring is very much important. So there will be like an all the time monitoring will be going on. So who have access the resources, who is accessing the resources, what time, and which are the persons have an access at like a limited time or as like a longer time, and what are all the resources user accounts are there. So for each user account, what are all the permissions or like an authorized to access. So all those monitoring will be there. So it will intimate if the admin, or else it intimate the owner if anyone try to access the unauthorized, or else like an which don't have a permission, if they try to access that one, so then it will intimate to the owner or as the subscriber for the resources. Automation to act on events being monitored without human intervention required. So that's what is completely automatically take care of these. If anyone trying to access your service, or if unauthorized person is trying to access your database, then it will completely take care of an like in specifically intimating. So it is like in managing your cloud environment and resources via like a web portal, command line interface, and the application peripheral interfaces, and the PowerShell will be taken care. So because a lot of the interactions will happen through the API,
or else with respect to the command line interface, or else with respect to the PowerShell. So the PowerShell is a tool that we are going to discuss. So through different things that you will be accessed, or else they will try to threat, or else that will be try to access your cloud, or as the resource, or as the infrastructure that you have over the cloud. So these are the things with respect to the management. So that with respect to manageability in the cloud. So as we discussed, so even for example, agility, or as like an elasticity, and as we discussed with respect to the security and the governance, and even with respect to the reliability and the predictability, availability and the scalability. So these are a lot of different benefits that the cloud services will offer. So let's try to understand about an cloud service types. So we have already had an idea. So what are the different types of cloud services are there? So very beginning of the session. So I've just explained over there. So what kind of different type of cloud services are there, and how it will be like utilized. So one is like an infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and which is serverless compute, and the other one is like a software as a service. Let's go ahead and discuss each of them in detail. Okay, so before going it, so we have discussed the responsibilities, and now we have understood the complete idea with an idea of like and what all the benefits are there in the infrastructure as a service, or as like an platform or software as a service from the cloud part. And even if it is like an on physical, so especially on premises, if you are going to keep a setup. So in such case, what is the responsibilities that is coming up, and what could be the expensive? So you can see this corner, so it's like an dedicated higher cost, and as you go up, so it's like a shared lower cost, and it's like an okay, on premises, this is the completely an on premises infrastructure, and this as you go towards the right, it's like in completely off premises. So here, if it's an on premises, you will be having like a lot of physical infrastructure, and if you will going to have like a lot of an investment over there, so your capex, the capital expenditure will be very huge. But as you go towards the like and towards the cloud services as a service, like, and it could be an infrastructure, it could be a cloud, or it could be a software. So in such case, as the cloud things that you'll access, even your responsibility will be reduced, and even with respect to the cost wise, so even you will going to get access very lesser budget. So if you're going to building your business with a lesser budget, so then you can go with a software as a service. So because as a cloud services, because it's the maintenance will be cheaper when compared to the on premises, and the initial investment will also be cheaper when compared to the on premises. Okay, the four different models that we are going to discuss today. So first is like an infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, the third is that software as a service, and the fourth is serverless. The four different complete like in different cloud modules, what actually it will offer and what will be there. So all those things that we are going to understand here. The first one is like an infrastructure as a service. Let's try to understand what actually the infrastructure as a service, what are the services that will offer, and even the initial of this class we have discussed what is an infrastructure as a service, what it could offer. So the first thing is like this is completely an computer paradigm. So where Azure provides you the virtual hardware. So it's an infrastructure. First thing, for example, if you want to build an application, what do you need? So if you need to if you need to write a code for your application, for your business, so what do we need? So we need an infrastructure. We need a physical hardware, right? So this is what the infrastructure as a service will offer. So it will it will provide the virtual hardware, like a virtual machine, virtual like a load balancer, virtual network. So these are the different virtual platform, virtual hardware will be provided where we can have a complete control over that. Even it's in virtual, so virtual like a virtual machine. As we have a system, as we have like in personal computer, what the access that we will have to the personal computer is like, and what is the uh, specifically and what is the operating system access or as the permissions that we have, the same permission that we are going to get over the infrastructure as a service. So is a type of cloud computing service. Even the infrastructure as a service is type of cloud computing service that offers to essential compute, storage, networking resource on demand, and on a like an pay as you go basis. So as much you use, so you need to pay for that. And even infrastructure as a service is one of the four types. So as we have seen, is like an along with the software as a service, platform as a service, and the serverless. So migration, for example, if you think of like a migration with your organization, infrastructure to an infrastructure as a service solution helps to reduce the maintenance of on-premises. It is like an on-premises data center, and then save money on hardware cost and gain the real-time business insight. So you don't need to worry about especially the data center or as with respect to the hardware and all. You just take care of the things that you need to develop and save money with respect to the hardware cost completely. So the capex could reduce and gain the real-time business insights by making use of the cloud services. So infrastructure as a service solution gives the flexibility actually to scale our IT resources if you want much more, or as if you want to reduce. One day you may need thousands of virtual machines, so immediately, so you can scale up as well. So if you thought like, okay, you don't want much more, probably want to reduce to and some 200 or 300 virtual machine, you just can scale down. So the virtual machine flexibility that you can have, not only the virtual machine hardware in the concept of like an hardware, so it helps you to quickly provision new applications and increase the reliability based upon your the infrastructure that you have. And in this, even to understand infrastructure as a service, let us to bypass the cost and the complexity of buying and managing the physical servers, data center infrastructure. Here, each service or as each resources is offered as a separate service component. It's not like completely interrelated ones. So we need to pay for a particular resource as long we need it. And the cloud computing service provider like an Azure, what they will do is they will manage the infrastructure when we purchase, install, and we configure, manage our own software, including the operating system, middleware applications, and all. If you look into the advantages, if you want to discuss on the like an advantages of the infrastructure as a service, sorry, it reduces the capital expenditure and optimize the cost. So infrastructure as a service, it eliminate the cost of configuration, managing the physical data center, makes it like a cost-effective choice for migrating with the cloud, and pay as you go. So subscription model, right? So it's used by like an infrastructure as a service providers help you to reduce the hardware cost and the maintenance, and enable our IT team to focus on the core business. So no need to worry about the infrastructure. And second thing is like an increases the scale and performance of IT workload. So it's like a part of a scalability. So infrastructure as a service will let us to scale globally and accommodate the spikes in the resource demand. So we can deliver IT resources to employees from anywhere in the world faster and enhance the application performances. And the third thing is like it increases the stability, reliability, and the supportability. That's the infrastructure as a service. There is no need to maintain and upgrade the software and the hardware, or else the troubleshooting the equipment, right? So you don't want to troubleshoot, and you don't have a physical device which will get fault. So with the appropriate agreement in place, the service provider, so that's like an Azure, Azure will guarantee that your infrastructure is reliable and meet the service level agreements. So as we discussed, the service level agreement is the between the two parties. So what are all the policies and the governance part? And the next advantage is like, and it improves the business continuity and disaster recovery. So this is like high availability and the business continuity. So like in disaster recovery is an expensive because it requires a significant amount of technology and staff. So with like an SLA in place, infrastructure as a service help to reduce this cost. It also helps to access the application data as usual during the disaster or outage. If there is any outage or if there is any disaster that happens in your location, your office area, so you don't need to worry. You have placed the backup in separate region, and there will be an backups will be there. So nothing to worry about that. It makes easy to access. And the next benefit could be like an enhancing the security. So with the appropriate service agreement, cloud service providers can offer like an better security for your applications and data with the security you would attain in-house. So the building security and all probably like in different ones. So you can get more much better services over there, security over there. So the next thing is like platform as a service. So this is like very much interesting. So platform as a service is a complete development and deployment environment in the cloud. So this one with resources that we have, that we enabled us to deliver like in everything from the simple cloud-based application to sophisticated. So cloud enabled enterprise applications, so we can like, and we purchase the resources whatever we need from the cloud service provider, that is like an Azure, on the pay as you go basis, and access them to secure the internet connection. So here platform as a service similarly as like an infrastructure as a service include the infrastructure, servers, storage, and networking, but also the middleware development tools. So middleware. So in platform as a service, we'll bring in the middleware development tools, basically like in business intelligence services, database management systems, and more. So platform as a service is like an designed to support the complete web application lifecycle. It's like an it's like a web application, or it's like any kind of an application that you want to build. So the complete life cycle will be taken care. It is like an building, testing, deploying, and managing the things, managing your code and updating your code. Each and every stage: building, testing, deploying, managing, and updating. So each and every time the stages will be taken care from the from the inside. So at the platform as a service. And also this also helps us to avoid the expense and complexity of buying and managing the software license. You don't want to worry about it. Okay, I need an this tool, and for that tool, the license will expire in few months. So you don't want to worry about all those things for the development or as the testing process, managing, updating, and all the things. So in the platform as a service, you can completely underlay application infrastructure and middleware container orchestrators such as Kubernetes, or the development tools and the other resources that we look in the module 3. And we can manage the application services that we develop, and the cloud service pro typically can manage everything else. If you ask like in common platform as a service scenarios, so common platform as a scenarios like an development framework, the first one. Development framework provide the framework for the developers to build upon a developer as like customized cloud-based application, similar the way we create an Excel macro, or as like an it helps us to create an application using and building software components. And even this feature actually, cloud feature helps in the scalability, again, high availability, multi-tenant capacity, and included reducing the amount of coding that developers must do. And also analytics part as well. So as they are like in business intelligence, tools provide and service with the platform as a service allow organizations to analyze, mine their data, finding the insights, patterns, and predicting the outcomes that to improve the forecasting, product decision, design decisions especially, and investment returns and other business decisions will be taken care. That is what comes under the analytics or the business intelligence will be supported from the platform as service. If you look into the another additional service could be like in platform as a service provides many offers that like a service that enhance the application, such as workflow, directory, security, scheduling, all those we can see it. If we look into the advantages over the platform as a service, sorry, this is what I was discussing. So if you look into the advantages of platform as a service, mainly first more advantage is like in cutting the coding time. So platform as a service development tool can cut the time that takes to code new application, or as with the pre-coded application components built into the platform, such as like a workflow, directory service, security features, and many more. And this development capabilities without adding the staff, like I mean, this platform as a service component can give your development team new capabilities without you are needing or else like can add staffs having a required skills. And it will use a sophisticated tool for the affordability and also to effectively manage the application lifecycle. I mean, platform as a service provide all the capabilities that you need to support the complete web application lifecycle. Lifecycle means it starts from the development, building, writing the code, and also testing that when whatever the code has been developed or as the written, and then deploying that code and managing that code and updating the code when it is required, or updating the features within the same integrated environment. You need to take care of each and different things from different stages. Everything could be taken care of the platform as a service. So upload code package and then run without access to the hardware. This is what the complete platform as service. So let's look into the software as a service. Software as a service allow users to connect to and use cloud-based applications over the internet. So if you ask me what are the kind of cloud-based applications, the examples could be like an email, calendaring, office tools. For example, it's like an Microsoft Office 365. So that's different applications that could be. And software as a service provides a complete software solution that you purchase, like it is completely based on like an pay-as-you-go basis. So pay-as-you-go, I'm repeating many times, which is like how much that you use. So we have just discussed. So it's like I just explained that what kind of charging will be there. It's like it could be based upon the as a pay as you go. It's like based upon the usage, or else is based upon the time that will be utilized, based upon the space usage that will be done. So in different factors, it will be charged. So yeah, here the thing is like you rent the use of an application for your organization, and your users connect to it over the internet and usually with the web browser. So that since the application will be running on the cloud and all of the underlying infrastructure. So if I mean the underlying infrastructure like an middleware application, software, and application data are located in the service provider data center. So everything will be taken care. Everything will be taken care over the cloud. So everything, it means who will take care of that one? So the service provider again. So the service provider here is an Azure. So Azure will completely take care of providing the hardware and the software facility with the appropriate service agreement. So they will ensure the availability and the security of the application, your data as well. And software as a service allows your organization to get quickly like an up and running with an application with minimal upfront cost. So you built the code, so using a platform as a service, and you want to make sure that your code is like an application is up and running, so and it's available for the customers. So that is the one thing, so which will be completely supported from the cloud infrastructure. So there could be like a lot of advantages over the software as a service. So let's discuss few of them. So one thing is like can gain access to the sophisticated application. It's like providing an software as a service applications to user. You don't need to purchase, install, or else like an update or maintain any hardware, or else like a middleware, or else like in software. So SaaS actually makes even sophisticated enterprise applications such as like an ERP. ERP means an enterprise resource planning, and the CRM. So there is a customer relationship management. So as an affordable for organizations and that lack the resources to buy, deploy, manage, and required infrastructure and software themselves. So in here, pay only for what you use in the software as a service. You only save money because your software as a service automatically scales up and scales down accordingly to the level of usage. You no need to take care. So based upon the usage, it will scale up, auto scale actually. And you can use free client software. So users actually can run the most software as a service applications directly from their web browser without needing to download or install any of the softwares. So although some applications require plugins, there are some applications will come up in the browser, they need a plugin, but most of the applications that will be run as a software as a service will run on the cloud. So on their browser without, they don't need to worry about and downloading and installing the applications. So and the next thing is like mobilizing your workforce easily. So SaaS actually makes it easy to mobilize your workforce because users can access the software as a service application and data from any internet connected computer or mobile device. So you don't need to worry there about deploying or as like developing applications to run on different type of computers and devices, because the service provider as Azure has already taken care of it. So in addition, you don't need to bring special expertise on board to manage the security issue related to the inherent or like in mobile computing and all. So carefully, like the service provider will ensure that security of your data, regardless of what type of a device consuming it. So it's like at the side of client side, which kind of a type of a device is accessing your data. You don't need to worry about in that aspect. Access application data from anywhere. So that's one more thing. So with the data stored in the cloud, so user can just access the configurations only, and you don't want to take care of anything else. Users can access their information from any internet connected computer or mobile device, and when the application data is stored in the cloud. So and no data will be lost if even if the computer or the device will fail. So it's very much sure that none of the data will be lost. Okay, let's try to understand about an serverless. So in the very first subtopic while discussing was mentioning about, and there is an like a serverless computing. So let's try to understand about and what is an serverless. So we have understood the major things, especially it's like an. So first thing is like an infrastructure as a service, and we understood about what is a platform as a service, what it will offer, and we understood like an software as a service as well. So let's try to understand much more in depth of understanding about the serverless and what all actually the serverless will offer, the benefits, and like an serverless functions. There are a lot of things are there in the serverless. Serverless actually is like in computing enables the developers to build application in a faster way. So they can by eliminating the need for them to manage the infrastructure. So they don't want to worry about the infrastructure. So serverless application, actually the cloud service provider automatically provisions, scales, and the manage and infrastructure required to run the code. Everything they will take care of it. So in understanding, like with respect to the serverless computing, servers are like and still running the code. So serverless names actually comes from the fact that task associated with infrastructure provisioning and management. So here, even the server means it is still a running code, but serverless means there will be like few facts will be there. If it is server means few facts is like, and you need to take care of an infrastructure provisioning and management and like and those things you need to take care, which is like in completely that those tasks will be completely invisible to the developer. So the approach here is like to enable the developers to increase their focus on the business logic and deliver more value to the core business. So that's what the main approach in the case of a serverless. So serverless computing helps the team to increase their productivity and bring products to the market faster way, and allow the organizations to better optimize the resources and stay focused on the innovation part. So yeah, in the serverless, there are like a few like in benefits in this computing. So the first is like an no infrastructure management. Usually, like in fully managed services, enables developers to avoid administrative tasks and focus on core business logic. So with the serverless platform, you simply deploy and then you just deploy your code and run it with an high availability. That's it. So and also dynamic scalability. So with serverless computing, again, the infrastructure dynamically scales up and scales down with seconds to match the demand of any workload. And here it will be like a faster time to market. So serverless applications reduce the operation dependency as well on each development cycle, increasing the development team's agility to deliver the more functionality in a very lesser time. And more efficient use of resources will be taken care. Shifting to the serverless technology helps to organizations to reduce the TCO and relocate the resources to accelerate the pace of innovations. So it helps the developers to take care, concentrate much more on writing their code and developing the business and the logics in the perspective. So as I mentioned, so it's like completely very less with respect to the task. So as a serverless, even less access to the server than the platform as a service. So you will be having like a very, very limited access to the server. You don't want to worry about hosting your application once it's like in developed. So developers build a serverless application using a variety of application patterns. So many of them which align with respect to the approaches already we have discussed, like a serverless function. So that's what we'll discuss, like a serverless Azure function. So serverless function means it accelerates the development by using an event-driven model, and it triggers automatically that will execute the code to respond to any events and bindings to the seamlessly integrating the services. And there's a concept called like a serverless Kubernetes. So this will discuss even much more about the container Kubernetes and all. So developers bring their own containers to fully manage, like in containers cluster that can like an automatically scale up and scale down with a sudden change in the traffic. So traffic means the much more the requests could coming up, or as the traffic workload could be coming up. Serverless workflow is a way like take the low code, no code approach and simply orchestration combined tasks. Even with the platform as a service, you have to choose an application service plan, which application services, because based upon the billing will be taken, or is based upon the charges will be made for the customers. So with platform as a service, scaling is your responsibility. So we need to take care of what kind of a scaling that has to be taken care of, scalability part. And serverless means not worrying about and choosing the right plan or choosing anything. So you just nothing to worry about in deploying and all, just concentrate much more on the like a scalability and all, nothing to availability, scalability, and nothing to worry about. Just need to concentrate much more about the development of the logics and writing the code and improving the business sector. So serverless means you might pay $0 if you don't use the service. So it's like again, like in pay as you go, it's like and based upon the usage. If you don't use much more service or there, if you won't host any application, so then no need to pay for that anything over there. So these are the different ones, like as I was mentioning about like an Azure Compute, Azure Functions, Compute Serverless Kubernetes. There is the virtual nodes and ACI. So and the database wise is like an Azure SQL database and which is a serverless, and also the Cosmos DB as a serverless. So different serverless feature the Azure will offer. Okay, so we have discussed just 1 minute. Okay, today we have discussed like an multiple concepts. So just giving an overview again, we have discussed the concepts with respect to the cloud concepts in the cloud computing. So we have understood how the cloud computing will works. Even with the very beginning, so we understood what is a cloud and what is computing and all. So then we understood like in what is an cloud computing and what is the like an in the cloud computing, which is like an ability to rent the compute services and all. And then going at we understood the shared responsibility model in the first subtopic. In the shared responsibility model, it's like in comparing the responsibility versus the Azure across the three paradigms, that's with respect to the platform as a service, software as a service, and the infrastructure as a service, that we have understood the responsibility. And we discussed in cloud models. So there are like an three different cloud models that we have discussed. One is like a public cloud, so where provides the public internet to anyone who want to sign up for them. And another one is like we discussed in private cloud, so that offers only for selected users. And the hybrid cloud, which works as like a mixture in between the private network and servers using the public cloud for some few things. So it is like in complicated infrastructure. So hybrid cloud. So and also we discussed and use cases for each cloud model. So like a public cloud, owns the and the private cloud and the hybrid cloud, the comparison. Then we have discussed an consumption-based model, that is like an capex and the opex. So capex is like an capital expenditure. So it's like an amount of money invested in an asset. Asset means it's like a building, computers, equipment during the setting up upfront, and it returns profits slowly actually over the time, and major cash drain or like a loan required cannot be deducted from your like we pay the tax, right? So it won't be taken, it won't be deducted over the tax in a year or like deprecated over the several years. And there is an opex, operational expenditure, is like an amount of money spent on monthly wise or as like an yearly wise as an operating expense. So we can like we can earn more money in the revenue, or from that we can spend and can be deducted from the taxes, or as like an both the things can be taken care. So that's what the actually consumption based model that we have discussed. So paying for something based upon how much we use, or as like an how much something, no matter what it is. So based upon that, we have discussed the consumption based model for the capex and opex. And then also we discussed the cloud pricing models, free services, and which are all the paid one, pay for time, pay for GB, pay for operations. pay for executions. So that's sort of the cloud pricing models that we have discussed. And then we jumped on to the subtopic 2 is completely understanding about the benefits of the cloud services. And the benefits we discussed about an high availability and the scalability. What is an availability? What percentage does time the system respond properly on request, and expressed as a percentage over time. And even the scalability as a system grow the capacity easily, when it reaches to the maximum capacity. And elasticity, and disaster recovery, reliability, predictability, security, and the governance to protect our application from data from the threats, and the policy and the procedures of our company that protect account on our data. All those things keep in mind. And manageability on the cloud is like an elasticity and the agility, and management in the cloud to manage the cloud environment and the resources via the web portal, or as manage the resources via the command line interface, or as just make an the integration using an API integrations, PowerShell. So these are the management in the cloud could be taken care. And there are as a last subtopic, we have discussed the cloud service types. So cloud service type, we understood what is an infrastructure as a service. It could be an virtual machine, virtual hardware, especially the Azure, which will provide. So virtual machine, load balancer, load network, so different hardware as an infrastructure as a service could take, and that it replicates the exact function, the equipments that will do. So as infrastructure as a service, and then platform as a service, lose some control over the hardware. Generally, can upload your code and just configure the environment. So it's examples for the platform as a service, as we discussed, application services, web applications, SQL database. So these are platform as a service examples. So here the thing is you need to, it's you need to worry about licensing the things, and also it's completely taken care from the service provider Azure. So you just need to take care of the platform for the coding, and write your code, develop the things, compute it, and test it, and then deploy those. So and then we have discussed it as software as a service, so where we much more control over the hardware and the software, and generally an application that is developed, right? So it will be configured for the usage, and it will be hosted as a software. So a lot of examples could be an Azure portal, Outlook 365, Windows virtual desktop, Azure DevOps. So these are the different examples over the software as a service that we have discussed. And we discussed it as serverless compute. Serverless compute is removes both the need of managing the infrastructure and need to configure the environment, runs the code. So that's an Azure function, Kubernetes, application environment, and all. So these are the different cloud types that we have discussed today. So going next. So the next we are going to discuss an Azure architecture and the services. It's I'm going to cover an 35 to 40 weightage for your exam. So here we are much more discussing about the architectural concepts of Azure. So as I was mentioning, a region pair, and the zones, data centers, and the management groups, what kind of subscriptions that we are going to get, and all. And the second, we are going to describe in understanding much more about and compute types, container instance, virtual machines, functions, and the networking services, and also and we are describing each and understanding each and every application hosting options. So and even we are trying to understand the public-private endpoints. So in depth, we are going to understand each of those things. And also the third subtopic in the next one is going to be Azure storage services. The storage services could be what are the different storage types are there, which could be a free, and how much it could be free, and storage account options, storage types. And there are some of the options for moving files, including AZ copy, Storage Explorer, storage Azure file synchronization. So this will be used to mainly for moving the files. So that will be like, and we are going to discuss on the next module. And also we are discussing the migration options. So that is like an Azure Migrate and Azure Database. So these are the two Azure Migrate options. So we are going to discuss those two in the third subtopic of module 2. And the last is like an identity part. So there's an, as I described, mentioned, so there will be an as I was mentioned, is like an Azure Identity, Azure Active Directory. So all those things we are going to discuss in the last subtopic. So this will cover completely 35 to 40% weightage for your examinations. So let's start this one and discuss this topic on tomorrow's session. So cool. Based upon the topics that we have discussed, my request is to like even I have shared the steps that you need to register and the steps that you need to follow for the to access the learning materials and to access your examination code. So follow those things and get access to the code and everything. So meanwhile, so if you don't have that material how to follow steps, so you can get that over the link is mentioned over the description. So you can access it from there or else it in the chat box. So you can download the document from the link or else from the chat box. And please go to it offline. So to install it yourself and to access the materials. And also you can go through the learning materials. You can also go through the learning materials from the Microsoft Azure platform. Okay, so cool. That's much I have for today. So tomorrow we have a same session at like 6 p.m. in the evening tomorrow. So tomorrow will be at the same time we are going to discuss about an module 2 in detail. So we are going to understand about a module 2 in detail and what are all the different topics that we are going to discuss as is displayed on the screen. So we are going to discuss the module 2 in detail and understand much more about it. So thank you everyone for today's session. So joining for today. So let's join on tomorrow 6 p.m. Let's discuss about the module 2. Thank you all. So if there's any doubts, please come back. Let's discuss on tomorrow as well. Thank you everyone. Bye. Good night.